Hey, Sterling Cousins. You already know what time it is. Animated horror stories. Animated horror stories. Doom, doom, doom. Ba-doom, boom, boom. Ba-doom, boom, boom, boom. But y'all know what I said last week. I was doing a full hour with y'all. Uh, uh, uh. So what we're gonna do is we at our cousin Mr. Creepy house. We like it over here. We enjoy it over here. Be popping over here. Uh, you know. As I say always, feel free to go over to their channel, subscribe, watch their videos with them. As if you want lonesome one-on-one time with them, no commentary. Go over there. Over here I'm chatting, I'm pausing, I'm going back, I'm talking big shit over here. This is what we do over here. You know? That's just for those who ain't familiar. My cousins know. The newbies. Hey, stay a little while. We gonna be in here for a full hour. It says 12 most scary horror stories animated. Mm. But if we have seen it a bunch of times, we will skip the story. All right? We'll skip it and keep going. Hopefully, it's not a lot back to back that we've seen already. But if it is one that we skip and I feel like it's good, I will tag it at the end. I'll try to remember which video it was in and I will tag it. If you see me check down a little bit, it's because I ordered some food and I'm watching for it to come. All right, let's get into it, y'all. Ooh, our hour together. We haven't been together this long since the movies. I know I just stopped doing them. It was because it was a lot. It was a hassle with them. I had to keep emailing folks and getting permission a couple times. I think I stopped because the last time I did a whole video and then my audio was gone. I was so mad because it was really pissing me off, y'all. That girl really answered the phone and told them people the address to the house. And she was like, the pizza man asked for the address to the house. Like the pizza man asked you for your address, like you ain't give the address already. What pissed me off? That man came and killed everybody. I was so mad. And I said that all in commentary. It was all muted. So I was like, nope. But who knows? We might get back into that, but we've been doing reactions, so that still counts. But who knows? But I'm just excited for this hour together. Ugh. Like I said, and we might be skipping some, but that's just if we see it a bunch of times. If we ain't, we only see it a couple, we can just watch it. But let's get on into it, y'all. Please grab a blunt, grab a bottle of water, grab two. Grab some snacks instead of just a bag of chips. And yes, y'all can get your blanket because you don't need to be snug. We about to be together for a whole hour. Yes. So let's go, y'all. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's go. Mm, mm, mm. We started at
People often
Starbucks.
love to collect beautiful Starbucks mugs, and especially limited edition ones. But for
I think
me,
you've seen this
every
one.
time I look at those cups, my head gets dizzy and uncomfortable. They have been the most terrifying obsession of my life, and now I will tell you about my crazy experience. I was 22 years old back then and didn't have to find a job because my family was well off and I never had to worry
Okay.
about
Money,
money.
money,
But
money.
that time was different. My mom and I had a big quarrel about me moving out, and I actually left the house because of that. Without a
Mm.
penny, my friends suggested to me to work in a small Starbucks in the city. This store was a bit special because of a giant cup placed outside, and a lot of people came to take photos with it. The cup was 8 feet high and had a door to enter the inside. But as I remembered, customers were never allowed to touch it. I once hoped that when I became an employee at the store, I could discover the secret inside the cup. On the
I don't want to
first day of
discover
work,
nothing
I was
at work. I just
extremely
want to work and
impressed
go
with the
home.
manager's appearance there. He was 30 years old but had the appearance of a 50-year-old man. There
Okay.
was a lot of gray hair on his head, his cheeks were drooping like a basset hound.
Mm.
His personality was yet as terrible as his appearance. He yelled at the staff all the time as if no one could ever please him. That working day, he kept going back and forth to nitpick one by one. especially when he came to my spot. He looked at me from top to toe with his judgmental eyes, and I could feel a bit of disgusting perversion in the air. Right from the moment I came here to work, my colleague, whose name was Kelly, told me not to get involved with the manager. Straighten your back.
Oh, hell
It was around
no.
10 p.m. and the shift was about to end. The manager said that I had to learn to bartend and that he would teach me. It turned out to be an endless nightmare for me. When he was instructing me,
Oh, he
he
just touched your
intentionally
back.
touched my hand and stood really close to
No.
me. Every time he said something, his mouth gave off an extremely disgusting smell of
And you
rotten
got bad
meat.
breath?
Although I tried to concentrate and mix the right proportions or do exactly as he taught, every time I gave him a drink, his face wrinkled and scowled, saying I didn't do it right.
Who you do it then?
In the next few days, he continued to make me stay late to learn bartending. Day by day, he deliberately stood close to me, making me extremely uncomfortable. I thought I couldn't take it anymore. The thought of quitting my job popped into my head. It was the 5th day he asked me to stay. This time he was more aggressive, came closer to me, and suddenly grabbed my arm.
No.
Mary,
This is too much.
go on a date with me. We'll make a perfect couple.
Sir, what are you talking about? Let go of my hand!
Boy, ain't nobody going on no date with you.
Don't be shy. No girl has ever refused a handsome guy like me.
Your breath smells like ass.
Pervert! Let me
him.
go! Let me go!
I used all my strength to pull my hand out of his disgusting grip, but he still laughed maniacally as he approached me. Come here. The more I stepped back, the more he moved forward. With the cup of hot coffee in my hand, I angrily shoved it in his perverted face, causing him to roar with burns. His screams also made me suddenly wake up and realize what I just did. Frightened, I turned and ran away, but the moment I was about to leave, my heart skipped a beat because my hair was yanked back and I fell on the floor. My head hit the floor so hard that I was extremely dizzy. In my sight was the manager, his skin flushed with burns, his bloodshot eyes clearly showing blood vessels. He glared at me like he wanted to eat me alive. I knew I was
Like,
in
this is your
danger,
own
but
fault,
I
sir.
couldn't
You
control
over here
myself
grabbing
from
people like
shaking.
you
My
know?
heart was beating faster and faster, making my brain feel like it was going to explode out of my head. You're gonna pay for this!
No, I'm sorry.
You're
I
pissed off
didn't
and it
mean
ain't nobody's
to.
fault but your own, sir.
Please!
He didn't care about my pleas, but grabbed me by the neck and dragged me forward. He tied me up and put me in the giant Starbucks cup.
No
The fear increased when I
way.
saw a decomposing corpse inside. It was still wearing a Starbucks uniform and was in a tied position like me. Sit in here and think about it. You should know that dating me is a blessing.
Ooh.
Then he closed the door. My surroundings were so dark and cramped that I could barely breathe. The invisible pressure of darkness weighed heavily on my head. Plus, the skeleton's presence scared me to the point of madness.
Man, I know
I
it stink
screamed
up in there.
madly until I became exhausted and then gradually fell asleep.
I know it's stinking there.
The next morning, the buzzing sound of the store woke me up. The sound of customers laughing and talking, the sound of colleagues calling customers' names gave me hope.
Help! Someone help me! I'm here! Please!
It's soundproof
I
up in there?
shouted until my throat hurt, but no one answered. The people who could save me were right outside the cup, but no one could hear my pleas for help. Hopelessness slowly embraced my whole body.
Let me go! Let me go! Please help me!
Until the end of the day, no one heard my words crying for help. No one knew I was stuck in that cup. My body gradually weakened. It was limp from exhaustion. I felt like I was dying. The bright light entered my eyes. In front of me now was my colleague, Kelly. That horrible dream finally came to an end. I was so exhausted that I couldn't speak and
She about
felt
to help
so
you though, or is
blessed
she
that
not
I
about
could
to help you?
eventually safely pass out.
Oh, good shit.
When I woke up in the
Yeah,
hospital,
Kelly's the
I
good
was
kind.
taken by the police to testify about the whole incident. Kelly also told me how she found me. Fortunately, later that day, Kelly was in charge of cleaning. When she came to clean the cup, she was curious about what was inside, so she opened it and happened to see me. The psychopath
Curiosity.
manager was also arrested and charged before the law. But now I forever carry in me a fear of narrow spaces and the dark.
Of course. What, girl? You'll never not. You're claustrophobic forever.
There was a rumor,
Another.
no matter what you do or what your purpose is, never stay at a Chuck E. Cheese till the 5th night. Because if you do, you will go crazy or even die for no reason.
Are you for 5 nights at a-
Nonsense.
Stephen laughed at the story. He thought this rumor was stupid.
So, are you still gonna take the job?
The manager asked.
Yeah.
The
Stephen
manager told you
shrugged.
the story?
Remember, after checking the electrical system, you better go back to the security room. Don't stay outside for too long.
The manager said while handing the keys to Stephen before leaving. On the first day of work, Stephen tried to show himself as a responsible employee. The first duty was to check the electrical system. Chuck E. Cheese at night was so damn quiet. The dim light made it hard for Stephen to see things clearly, so he had to use the phone's
It better be
flashlight.
quiet. It's
Well,
Cheese.
it's broken.
Stephen flicked on the broken light switch in the hallway. Then he decided to go to the electrical system room through the dining table area.
How did it get here?
Stephen was surprised to see the mascot of Charles standing in the corner of the room. He then pushed it to the backstage. After checking the electrical system, Stephen returned to the security room.
So boring.
He leaned on the chair, sipping hot coffee and looking at the security camera. Here came the very first nuisance.
What the hell?
Stephen noticed a guy in uniform sweeping the arcade.
Hey, it's late. Stop cleaning. You can do it tomorrow.
Stephen said over the microphone, but that man ignored his words.
Hey,
Stephen lost his patience.
damn it.
He said
just
angrily and
leave
decided
it.
to walk over to the arcade.
Did you hear what I said?
He mumbled. But when Stephen got there, the arcade was empty. There were only the game machines covered with dust in the corner.
Lucky for you.
Stephen went back to the monitoring room, thinking
Wait,
that the
lucky for
man had
you.
finished his job and left. This light work really bored Stephen. Even though he had finished a cup of coffee, he still couldn't resist the sleepiness. So Stephen closed his eyes and fell asleep quickly. The first 4 nights had passed peacefully. And soon came the 5th night. Stephen continued his boring job, walking around the store, checking the electrical system and locking all of the doors. Then he returned to the security room and turned on the cameras one by one. Each area appeared in sequence on the screen. The cleaning staff in the arcade, restroom, play area, all silent at night.
You don't need to walk around. Just stay in the security room tonight.
Stephen suddenly was reminded of the manager's words. But he had been on duty for 4 nights in a row and didn't see anything dangerous.
Boy,
Stephen thought while
he
clicking
told
to
you
leave
night
the
5 is
camera.
when it starts, like, you know, when it starts. Ah!
Oh, shoot.
Stephen was startled when he saw
Rewind.
Charles's face covering the entire screen.
Who the hell did this?
Stephen angrily went to check the dressing room. But when he got there was no one in the dressing room. All animatronics were gone.
What the hell?
Stephen returned to the
What'd I say?
stage to
Just
check,
like Five Nights.
but there was nothing either. Stephen, startled, looked around.
Hey, this isn't funny at all.
He shouted.
Boy, they don't think it's funny.
The room turned red with the deafening alarm bells ringing.
Told you.
Stephen covered his ears. The sound hurt his head so badly. He quickly ran towards the door but was stopped by Charles the Mouse, which held a bloody axe in its hand. Stephen panicked and ran off to the other side. The dark corridor was lit by the dim
What happened when
flashlights.
you hard-headed?
Stephen
You
ran
told
in
not to do
panic.
that.
The heavy footsteps with the evil laughter of Charles and the other mascots were right behind him. Ellen the chicken threw the axe but missed him.
Oh
He
my
kept
God.
running away.
Ooh.
Stephen was now hiding in the dressing room among the dusty and furry mascots. He tried to breathe softly so those horrible things wouldn't find him. Heavy footsteps resounded in the air along with eerie laughter. Those creatures were very close, and they were
I love
hunting
Chucky, y'all.
Stephen.
That just looks so scary.
The animatronic's attention was drawn to the wardrobe, so they slowly approached. There was no one inside. Stephen managed to
time is
escape
it?
the dressing room before the robots found him. He panicked and ran towards the exit, but it was locked.
Damn it.
Stephen ran to the security room again, but no matter how hard he tried, the door wouldn't open.
No, 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 please, God, no!
Stephen muttered desperately. Stephen kept running away, but this time the robots blocked all the aisles. They came closer
What?
and closer. While panicked Stephen slowly stepped back, he suddenly hit something. That was Charles the Mouse.
No, no, no!
They setting people up at that damn job. Cause you know.
The hunting night ended and a new day came. The mascots returned to the backstage, closing their eyes again as if nothing had happened.
Hi, I want to apply for the position of night guard.
Abandoned McDonald's.
Hi everyone, it's Faith again. Today I want to show you guys this abandoned McDonald's restaurant. Don't forget to like, share, and
Abandoned
subscribe.
McDonald's restaurant.
Let's go!
This McDonald's was located in a small suburb, and it took Faith over an hour to find the way there. But it was worth all her
All
efforts.
that, and you still want
She
to
felt
go.
excited to be the first YouTuber to explore this place and was sure this video would break the record of her channel.
I heard that there was a massacre here, and the victims were McDonald's employees. The killer was never arrested.
Faith emphasized while filming the inside of the restaurant. There were neatly arranged tables and chairs on which many dust layers had thickened over time.
Look!
The old menu and some posters were still there on the board and also covered with dust and mold. Faith went to see the ice cream machines, the soda maker, and fryers. Suddenly, she saw a patch of mold on the floor behind the counter.
The police once found a body here. This place is a mess!
Faith panned the camera around to the kitchen.
I think we should move
Girl,
on.
how you gonna talk
Faith
about it being a
said to
mess?
the
You
camera
breaking it?
and stepped over the mess on the floor toward the bathroom. As she was walking along the hallway, the flashlight went out. Yikes. She didn't change the battery. Faith stopped to shake the flashlight, hoping to brighten it up a little longer.
Oh, shoot!
Oh, hell no.
Faith was startled, almost dropping the flash.
The robot?
Behind the window was a smiling Ronald Clown statue, whose eyes were wide open and very spooky. The statue looked old and odd.
Look, guys, this clown looks so real.
Realizing nothing so dangerous about this thing, she moved on to the other corners. The next destination was the toilet area, which was told to be where the murderer hid the corpses.
Watch his eyes. Ah! I knew it. I knew it.
Right after she walked to the door, the unpleasant musty smell wafted out.
That
She
body.
gulped, hesitating whether to go in. Even though people said it was a rumor, it still frightened Faith.
Why are
I'm
you
feeling
there?
pretty nervous, guys. Just a rumor, anyway.
Faith turned the doorknob. Nothing special here.
Oh, just a regular bathroom.
Faith sighed, yet still wanted to check it. She went around with the camera on. It looked cleaner than the other rooms, and there was no mold, no blood, or sign of murder here.
Guys, the rumor is fake.
Faith left the toilet. This time, Faith focused on the floor she was standing on. There were a lot of stains, some messy piles of things, some dusty paintings and doodles.
God, these are really...
That's Oh!
Faith was panic-stricken, then she fell to the ground, dropping the camera. On the ceiling was a dead body hanging. The corpse was wearing a
I said
McDonald's
that musty
uniform.
smell was body.
Her hand dangled in the air. Her face with 2 black eye sockets was covered in messy hair. Suddenly, her mouth started to move. Faith was so scared that her whole body froze.
Ooh, it's roaches. Oh my god, it's roaches.
The brown liquid trickled,
Ooh,
emitting
what
a
is...
foul stench throughout the air. Faith was panic-stricken, then she fell to the
Oh, I
ground,
would've died.
dropping the camera.
I would have died.
Rumors were true, and this place was really haunted. At
Girl,
this
that's not
point,
haunted, that's a whole
she didn't
body.
care about the video anymore. She quickly
That's a
grabbed
whole
the camera and
decomposing
ran away
body.
from
You're
the
talking about
abandoned restaurant
haunted.
without looking back. Fortunately, during her run, Faith found a police station. She quickly rushed in. When the police arrived, they quickly searched the entire restaurant but did not find the body. But the
You
police
lying.
continued to investigate based on Faith's video and traces at the scene. Faith offered the police some footage from her camera for investigation. As she watched the tape to the end, Faith shivered when she discovered the most terrible thing. There was no statue of Ronald the Clown in this abandoned McDonald's at all.
It's the killer up in there. Okay, this one's getting better. This is getting better, you know? Alright, now you got Chick-fil-A.
You know, it's not easy
from
to
Starbucks
change
to
your
McDonald's
diet
to
into a
Chick-fil-A.
full-time plant-based one, especially
get to
for a
skip
meat
this
eater
one.
like me.
Only
Have you
because-
ever got almost crazy
This
trying
ain't
to
very
control
good,
your
chicken.
craving
Anybody
for
wants
meat?
that.
If yes, then
Again.
things.
Turn to a whole chicken.
Give us the name now. Mashed potatoes and chicken. Here. Mashed potatoes and chicken. Mashed potatoes and chicken.
This story is based on a true incident recorded at a KFC store. You can see the woman in the footage was not wearing a mask, so the employees refused her service. The Karen in her came out. She went crazy, stepped on the counter, screamed, and threatened to stab the staff.
We did see this one too, so we will skip this one
This-
too. Okay. The ones that we skipped, one was a KFC one that we did reaction, and one was Chick-fil-A.
It's all her fault! It's all her fault! It's all her fault!
We have not seen
I'd
this
been
one.
waiting at the Subway food store for more than 15 minutes. Gosh, this store had never been this crowded. It had been like that ever since those 2 new girls came. Whatever. I just wanted to order my favorite bread. But they worked so slow that the waiting line got very long. One of the girls saw me and sighed and looked away. I remembered her. Her name was Ashley. A
Why
few
are
days
you
ago,
crying and
I
got an
came to
attitude, bro?
Subway
This
to
is your
buy
job.
food. And even though I had told her exactly 15 times that I didn't want ketchup, she didn't listen to me at all. I lost my temper and then had a quarrel with Ashley. Finally, the manager came to apologize to me, while Ashley got a day's salary deducted. But what still annoyed me was her attitude.
That's crazy.
What an obnoxious hussy. She muttered
Hussy?
something to the employee next to her. They definitely were talking about me.
Hey, what took so long?
Ashley stopped whispering. She sneered and then got back to her work. And she threw a glance at me. Finally, it was my turn to order. Ashley went inside right when I came to her.
What would you like to order, sir?
The other girl, named Julia, looked a bit shy. 1 chicken and bacon ketchup melt, no ketchup, please. Bear in mind, no ketchup. No ketchup. Got it?
Like,
I repeated
sir.
many times just to make sure. I decided to follow Julia without her noticing when she brought my order in there.
Hey, no ketchup.
Julia said to Ashley.
He'll never know.
Ashley sneered while pouring ketchup over my bread. I told her not to. Damn it. As if that wasn't
You gonna
enough,
kill her over ketchup,
she
boy?
spat a puddle of saliva onto the bread.
Oh, you nasty bitch.
He deserves it. And don't you tell the manager.
Ashley threatened Julia. At that moment, I just wanted to rush over and rip that Ashley to pieces. Then
Like,
the two
over
girls walked
Subway?
out.
Please, come and take your meals.
I'm not taking this.
Sir, I didn't put the sauce in, as you asked.
Really?
I saw her spit on my food. I pointed out to Ashley. Her eyes kept rolling because of that.
Sir, what are you talking about? We never did.
I saw you do it with my own eyes. You did it.
Ashley asked me to show evidence, but who needed proof? I had seen it with my naked eyes.
Are you tweaking?
You were there. Tell everyone.
Like, were
I
you
pointed
tweaking?
at Julia, but she was so scared that she stammered and ended up defending her colleague.
No, we never did.
Fine. Then what is this? I said no ketchup dressing.
There was no way that witch could get out of this. So she kept quiet, and Julia apologized and offered to make another bread. Meanwhile, the culprit Ashley immediately stormed inside.
Remember, no ketchup.
I was good
Like,
with Julia.
why do you keep
She
going
was
there?
a better waitress.
Like, why do you keep going
However,
there?
she immediately proved the opposite because she put ketchup onto my bread again. Ever since I stepped into this goddamned place, these two dumbasses had been making fun of me. I couldn't stand them anymore.
I told you no ketchup.
Sir, I'm sorry. Please calm down. This is a mistake.
Mistake my ass.
I stormed in and grabbed the fork in the jar
Oh!
and rushed to her. Julia covered her face,
Stabbed her in
screaming
the
in
eye
pain.
over
Damn it.
fucking
Damn
ketchup.
it. I frantically stabbed her, even though she was crying in
Over
deadly
ketchup?
pain. Right. I had to kill her.
Over
I had
ketchup.
to kill her. She must die.
Go to hell.
Julia!
That
Wait, ain't nobody
witch.
going by help
It
with
was
you.
all her fault. That devil
Close the door, Ashley, bitch.
finally
Close the door.
Came out. I furiously rushed to her with my fork.
Time to die. Time to die.
Someone stop you? Over ketchup, y'all.
I didn't remember how many times I stabbed her. But when I stopped, she was lying there in a pool of blood. And then a group of people quickly rushed over to suppress me. Ashley was dead right after that. Julia went to the hospital and I was brought here. It was all Ashley's fault. It was because of her that no one believed me, and I was brought here. I told her not to put the ketchup in, but she didn't listen at all.
What do you, like, what?
No ketchup. No ketchup. No ketchup.
No.
Outside, the rain was pelting down. Jade sighed softly. She didn't bring an umbrella today, and she didn't have a raincoat either. If the rain hadn't stopped, maybe she would have to stay overnight at the store. But she didn't like that at all, because
Overnight
there
at
was a
the
rumor
store.
that this store was haunted.
Don't clean the dining room table at 12 o'clock because you might see them.
Baron, a day shift employee, warned Jade so.
Them?
The kids, Jade, don't you know?
Baron shook his head. 10 years ago, there was a serial murder here, but the killer was never identified. The victims were 5 children. They were dismembered and stuffed in 5 mascots. From then on, their ghosts haunted this restaurant. When the clock pointed to 12, they would appear, started singing, dancing, even breaking furniture.
The corpse stuffed into Charles' mascot
kid.
is the most mischievous and evil.
Baron suddenly emphasized, which gave Jade a sudden goosebump. However, she signed in the contract for the night shift work, so she couldn't break it.
As long as I don't get there at 12 o'clock, I'll be fine.
But things were out of her expectation. Now it was raining heavily and she was stuck at the restaurant. The worst thing was the weak electrical system here, which made it even more gloomy. She tried to get the story Baron had told that morning out of her mind. The silence inside gave her a minor goosebump. Taking a deep breath, Jade took the mop to the dining table. The strange noise from the stage startled Jade, but when she turned around, there was nothing but 5 animatronics standing motionless on stage. Jade continued to pile chairs on the table. The hum that echoed through the air made Jade shiver. It was the song Out of This World that the animatronics band always
Ain't they tell you
performed.
not to,
Jade looked at
do
the
that?
animatronics on stage and assumed they were faulty, so she decided to check them. Jade slowly moved towards Charles the mouse. It stood there motionless with a smile while the humming still resounded.
Ball control to all my friends.
Charles suddenly bellowed out a loud, raspy sound like it was faulty. Its whole body began to convulse with the arms flailing wildly. Its mouth moved, and its eyes blinked rapidly, and the verse it was singing kept repeating over and over, growing louder and louder. Jade had to cover her ears because of the strange
died.
squealing. She panicked and staggered out of the dining table. Jade sat at the counter. She was panting, and her limbs were still shaking from the unexpected encounter. The restaurant was really haunted. She took out her phone and texted her manager to ask for a shift change. But it was almost midnight. He was probably sleeping. On the outside, it was still pouring down, but Jade decided to leave. She quickly put all her things in the backpack. Jade sped up. The more panic she got, the more quickly she did. She no longer had the courage to go check the electrical system, just using the flashlight on her cell phone to shine the way. After getting out of the counter, she found large footprints on the floor. Its color resembles blood. Those footprints extend from the dining table to the cashier counter. Jade was so scared that her legs were shaking, and she stepped back. Her back just hit something.
No.
She slowly rolled her eyes up. Mouse Charles's head gradually appeared from the darkness. It was smiling, and from there, a few drops of liquid splashed on Jade's face. She raised her hands to touch the liquid. Oh my God, that was blood. Jade screamed in fear. She tried to run out of the damn restaurant as fast as she could. The truck was approaching when Jade rushed across the road. The driver couldn't brake in time and crashed into her. Jade was lying under the front of the car, her head and face all crushed, her bones and joints broken. Blood gushed out from her mouth, mixing with
down for a second.
when Jade ran restaurant as fast as she
Yeah, by a
could.
truck?
The truck was approaching
Why
when
did y'all say
Jade
that
rushed
is?
across the road. The driver couldn't brake in time and crashed
Hit him
into
with
her.
a damn truck.
Jade was lying under the front of the car, her head and face all crushed, her bones and joints broken.
Damn.
Blood gushed out from her mouth, mixing with the torrential rain. The driver called an ambulance while Jade was dying in pain.
Damn.
Inside the dark corner of the store, Baron and Mascot Charles is dazed, his limbs shaking with fear. He just
You're
wanted to
pranking
have
her?
a little prank.
Oh, hell no. Y'all like y'all blunts. Ain't nothing more I hate than a fucking prank. This bitch died, got hit by a truck, because you want to prank somebody. Now you going to jail. You going your ass to jail.
My name is Vanessa. I'm a full-time employee at KFC restaurant. This wasn't my favorite job, but it was my main source of income, so I guessed
hate
I
a
had
prank.
no choice. My boyfriend and I lived in a shabby apartment. Most of the time, our dinner was the leftovers I brought from work. Things seemed to be fine, until one night. It was a Saturday night. The restaurant was incredibly crowded, so I had to work from the morning to late night. While I was cleaning the table, I noticed a new customer sitting at a table in the corner. He was frantically waving at me. I thought he wanted to order, so I went toward him. He turned out to be a mime artist, and he was grinning.
No.
What would you like
Ain't
to
nobody
order,
got no time
sir?
for this shit, sir.
I gave him the menu,
I am
but
working.
this guy just stared at me and started performing like we were in a play. Looking
Sir,
at his
we
gestures,
are
I guessed
working.
he wanted chicken and fries. Something about this guy made me feel uncomfortable.
'Cause,
With that
girl,
plus the
'cause you
fatigue,
were
I couldn't
working.
keep polite manners anymore. Here's your chicken. His smiling face distorted in an instant. He stood up and did some boxing moves. I was too tired
Yeah,
to say
like
anything
him?
back, and that seemed to make him angrier. He raised his hand to make a shooting gesture. If you don't order anything, then just leave, I mumbled. His face darkened. He put his hands behind his back and slowly moved toward me. I thought that
You
that
gotta
was
be
an
careful.
attack, but it turned out he was trying to stab me with an imaginary knife. I admitted that this silly trick startled me for a second, but it didn't make him less ridiculous at all. So I
Girl.
grabbed a random imaginary rock and threw it at that jerk. He frantically dodged and ran out of the door while clutching his head. That stupid reaction made me burst out laughing.
I'm sorry. I would have laughed too.
Today was not too bad for me. When
would've
my
laughed
boyfriend
too. That
Mark
would've been
came to pick me up, I told him about the mime guy. We laughed and talked all the way home. When we got to the building and walked to our apartment, I saw someone dressing as a mime artist in a hidden corner of the hallway.
You okay?
Of your
Are you
hallway?
tired?
Mark handed me a chicken thigh while seeing me bewildered. Probably the mime guy. Even so, I wouldn't be afraid of him because he was just a freak. For the next few days, I went to work in the morning and got the leftovers home at night as usual. It started snowing outside. After leaving work, I didn't see Mark waiting for me as usual. I tried to
killed
call
Mark?
him, but he didn't pick up the phone, so I got mad at him and walked home without him. As I reached home, I rushed to bed and fell asleep right away without even changing my clothes. The doorbell woke me up. I reluctantly went to the door to see through the peephole. I recognized Mark by his green beanie, but he was
Girl,
standing with his
you
back
know
to the
that's
door,
not
maybe
Mark.
with something surprising. I opened the door, mumbling, "Did you forget the key again? Where have you been?" But that person wasn't Mark. That was the mime guy with the white painted face. I just looked at him in shock. He took off his hat, bowed to me, and grinned again. Then suddenly he saw something. He slipped past me and went straight to the KFC chicken bag on the table.
You're lying.
What the hell is going on? He took the chicken out onto the table, then rubbed his hands together as if he were very hungry. He picked up a chicken thigh and began to devour it. Then suddenly he stopped chewing. His eyes lit up as if catching up with a new idea. He turned to me and made a gesture of enjoying the fries and ketchup. I couldn't keep watching this jerk burst into the house and eat Mark's food without permission. I
Girl,
jumped
he
in and
killed
yanked the
Mark.
food out of his hand.
Mark is gone.
Get out! I called the cops! His
When?
face darkened and he acted as if he pulled something out from behind his back. I still thought it was an imaginary
I was gonna
knife,
say,
so I grabbed it.
This time.
I could feel the pain and blood started to flow out.
What?
The
This
sharp
time he
blade
ain't
of the
playing
knife
with you.
stabbed in my hand, but it wasn't enough for him. He kept stabbing me with the knife, but I managed to dodge. I ran out of the room, terrified, while that crazy man chased me right behind. I rushed into the elevator and frantically pressed the close button. The moment he was about to hit me again, the elevator closed and the knife fell right in front of me. I crouched in the corner. Couldn't believe such terrible things had happened to me. When the police arrived, the only thing they found at the messy scene was a bloody knife with no fingerprints. A few days later, they found Mark's body buried in snow near the KFC restaurant.
Poor Mark.
The mime's identity was never found. After that, I quit my job and never even dared to step into any KFC again. For many nights,
I would.
I woke up startled and saw in the corner of the room, there was that freaky mime holding a bag of KFC chicken and smiling at me.
He ain't shit. You stole your man's KFC, killed your man, and stabbed you with an imaginary knife and a real one.
This story is inspired by a true incident at a Dairy Queen restaurant. Because of a
Y'all getting
conflict,
crazy at
the
Dairy
store
Queen?
manager threw hot oil on her employees, and everything after that was a tragedy.
Oh my god.
Mom, can you come and pick me up? I'm quitting the job this weekend.
Sarah's attitude made me very uncomfortable. That girl hadn't done any of her tasks all day. She chatted on the phone while serving customers. She forgot customers' orders, and she even played video games during her shifts. How irresponsible she was.
Just fire
Until
her.
lunch break, I went to see her.
Quitting your job. Good for you. But before that, get your ass up and do your duty.
Madam, it's lunch break now. I have the right to do my own things. I'll clean up this afternoon, all right?
Nah, princess. You're not the queen here, and I said you finish your goddamn cleaning.
Hey, what are you doing to my kid?
At that moment, a woman stormed into the store. I could tell who she was. That was Sarah's mother. Like mother, like daughter. The mother rushed to the cashier.
What did she do to you?
The little brat still holding her phone, scowling at me.
It's nothing, Mom. Just a jerk.
What did you say, little brat? Who do you think you're talking to?
Sarah's mother got mad. She
Notice
got
it's been a
close to
week.
me and slapped my glasses off.
What the hell are you doing?
So I grabbed
Period.
the card machine and threw it at her.
Oh!
What? Assaulting customers?
Sarah swaggered at me. Now they both stood up. I couldn't stand it anymore. I quickly jumped out. If Jesse, my colleague, didn't interrupt to stop me, there would have been a real fight here. Sarah's mother pulled her daughter outside.
Call the police.
Sarah threw a smirk at me. I couldn't give up on those two so easily,
You hit her with
so
a
I
damn
went straight
register.
to the kitchen. Without saying anything, I walked over to the simmering fryer and used the aluminum container to scoop up some boiling oil. The oil was burning hot, but still not as hot as my frenzy of anger
Oh my
right
god.
now. Jessie
this ain't
wanted me
worth
to
it.
stop, but when she saw the hot oil, she backed away in fear.
You asshole! An asshole, Junior!
I tossed the hot oil tank without any hesitation.
Ah!
Sarah's mother reacted in time, pushing her daughter away. Although she backed aside, some oil splashed on her arm, so she painfully threw the phone away.
Thank God.
The damaged
Just got her
skin
arm.
turned raw and red and chafed up real bad. She was so frightened.
How dare you hurt
there more
my
oil?
daughter?
Sarah's mother
there more
rushed
oil?
toward me frantically. I had a real fight
Yep,
with them.
whoop her ass.
These two were stronger.
Whoop her
They
ass.
started to scratch,
Yep,
punch,
beat
and kick
her
me. My
ass.
hands and face
Yep.
hurt. The child kept aiming at
Hell
my
yeah,
face.
the
and
child.
The mother punched me. I
Yep.
knew I couldn't fight back,
Get it
so I
ass
tried
up.
to crawl into the store while they were still kicking
Yep,
and kicking.
kicking and stomping and beating, you dumbass bitch.
Come here!
Yep, drag her.
Come here!
Yep, mom ain't done.
The mother was still screaming.
Yup.
In a panic, I crawled into the kitchen. Jessica stopped in time, so they stopped attacking me. I sat shakingly in a corner, but they were outside cursing and banging on the door until the police arrived.
And now you still about to go to jail.
The court said those two bastards were fined for fighting. I was imprisoned for 18 months for intentionally causing injury and had to pay
Exactly.
a lot of compensation. This
Exactly,
incident
bitch.
completely broke me down. Obviously,
still had to
it's
pay.
not my fault. It's the lazy girl and her terrible mother.
Your mother and daughter will definitely pay the price for this.
No, they
You
won't. They
just
paid a little
wait.
fine. Then your ass went to jail and had to pay them. Girl, like, y'all know I say this all the time. A job is just a job. If you don't feel comfortable there, leave. Because if something happens to you at that job, they is just gonna clock your ass out and call somebody else. That woman had an issue that she was lazy. The girl was quitting. She was leaving. Her mom came there, cussed you out already, slapped you already. You hit her with the register. All right, that was your lick. She had her lick. That's it. Y'all both had one. You gonna go outside and try to throw the oil on her daughter? Boiling hot oil? What? But you tried to kill her baby in front of her eyes and you thought they wasn't about to jump on that ass and beat the shit out you? And it's crazier because it said based on a true story. So that means that woman really got that ass tore up. Like I said, she threw the register. The mom slapped her. Y'all had y'all licks. You going back out there with some oil, bitch? You ain't asking, but for nothing but some drama. Jumped. They
Dan has
jumped
been a
her.
big fan of Chuck E. Cheese ever since he was a child. He often watched horror stories on YouTube about Chuck E. Cheese chain stores. Sometimes those stories were told
got a lot
to
of
be
stuff talking about with
based
Chuck E.
on
Cheese. I
a
ain't
true
never had no
story.
Chuck E. Cheese.
And of course, he was always curious to find out if those stories were true.
It's nice to be here late at night. When the machines are down and families are gone, you can get a Chuck E. Cheese token.
Dan stood in front of Chuck E. Cheese restaurant, looking at his phone with anticipation. He looked around carefully while forming in his head a plan to sneak in there at 3 a.m. In the YouTube video he was watching, there was a reference to the Chuck E. Cheese token. The video owner claimed that he found it in the management room thanks to an animatronic. So the plan was set. He must find an animatronic. After a while, Dan got to a dark hallway. He suddenly felt like someone was watching from behind. Turning around, Dan was startled to see the Chuck E. Cheese mascot standing there. It looked old and very strange with its round, fat body and dirty fur. Thinking it was the restaurant's staff, Dan cautiously took a step back. The mascot also stepped toward him without saying a word.
So weird,
Dan thought as he
promise you, not
squinted
trying
at
to
the
give you
moving
nothing.
creature. His heart was beating fast, and his mind was trying to come up with as many excuses as possible, just in case they caught him. And then, the mascot suddenly reached out with its hand toward Dan. Dan reflexively put his hand forward in self-defense, but the mascot had no intention of harming him. Dan looked closely
stick your
into the
damn
mascot's hand
thing.
to see a red hard card with the Chuck E. Cheese logo in there. His eyes widened in surprise.
Don't play at the machines until after dark.
No.
Although it's definitely more fun at night when everybody is already sleeping at home at 3 a.m.
It was true. The rumor in the videos was true. Dan looked at the card in the mascot's hand and took it after a moment's hesitation.
No, thank you.
Then, with great joy, he thanked the mascot and quickly left. Now Dan was standing in the front of the entrance and trying to figure out how to get in. His watch pointed exactly at 3 o'clock. The door suddenly opened, and the mascot, Chuck E. Cheese, appeared and waved for Dan to come in. He was so jittery, but decided to step inside. The inside of the store was pitch black. All the gaming machines were off.
Now then, how to start?
But the mascot disappeared before Dan finished his sentence. Dan felt a little scared, but he couldn't quit here. He turned on the flashlight and continued to go deeper. After he took a few more steps, suddenly the screen at the stage lit up to guide the way. His heart was pumping so fast. Finally, it was time to lift the veil about all of this mysterious stuff. He followed the instructions and reached the corridor shortly thereafter. At the end of the hallway was a huge door with a magnetic lock. Dan took out the red card previously given to him by the mascot and swiped it. The door opened.
Yes!
I'll be out in a second.
When he stepped through the door, a horrible odor broke out, causing Dan
Body?
to immediately cover his nose.
Dan.
It was a large room full of gaming machines like the store outside.
In bodies.
Those
that's what I'm
machines
smelling.
looked old with patchy stains and rust, but seemed to work fine. A faint whisper from the darkness startled Dan.
That's like,
He
get your ass
followed
over
the
there.
sound. The nearer
How
he
would you
got,
follow the sound? You're
clearer
there to
the
play
sound
games,
was.
Dan.
And when the 4 mascots appeared in the dark corner of the room, Dan was completely petrified. They looked very monstrous and creepy. On the costumes crisscrossed with stitches, the fur was thick, dirty, and messy. There were patches of exposed skin.
Please, help us.
Get out of there.
Oh my God!
Get out of there.
They were all humans. And those were not normal mascot costumes, but real human skin. Someone had sewn patches of skin and fur on those bodies to make them the living mascots.
Get out of there.
Let's butter up the pizza with a special butter sauce.
Dan felt a quiver down his spine. When he turned around, Charles the mascot came with a sharp knife in his hand. Dan fortunately dodged the slashes of the knife, but still suffered an injury to his hand. The mascot kept swinging the knife. Panicked, Dan rushed towards the door with all his strength before getting stabbed with the knife.
Like, why would you go
He
in?
rushed out of the restaurant, heading forward without looking back. Luckily, he reached the police station before losing consciousness from blood loss. According to Dan's testimony, the police came to investigate the scene. They found the secret chamber and the victims that were turned into mascots. They were the investors who planned to replace the restaurant with a big hotel. The owner was arrested after that. He was the one that wore the mascot. He loved the restaurant insanely. The owner decided to kidnap and punish the investors after they threatened to destroy his restaurant. And of course, he was also the mastermind of the horror story in Chuck E. Cheese 3 a.m. This story is for the coffee junkies. It's all about my cousin Wild, who announced that he loved coffee more than anything else in this world, especially Starbucks. He said that 2 cups of coffee a day is a must, or else he can't stand the entire day. I thought that it would be fine at first, until one day, Wild became out of control.
Okay.
That day, I went to Starbucks for an espresso before going to work. There was a long line of people already, so I had no choice but to wait. Well, it looked like everyone was tired on Monday morning. I could tell that based on their grumpy faces. When it was my turn, I asked for an espresso, but before I pulled out my wallet, someone crashed into me so hard I almost fell. It was Wild, my cousin. After not seeing him for a long time, I didn't expect such an awkward encounter.
Hey! Where's my coffee?
Wild raised his voice.
Sir, please wait a moment.
A Starbucks employee named Bruce replied gently.
Bring it to me! Right now!
I was quite surprised to see him acting like that. Wild used to be so gentle and a kind man. This was the first time I had seen him so angry. At this point, Wild totally lost his patience, slamming the table, then grabbing the employee's collar. Bruce looked so confused as Wild insisted that his order was ignored. Shelby, the store manager who was notified of the incident, rushed to the counter.
Sir, may I know your concerns?
Wild pointed at Bruce's face and said to the manager,
This stupid dude forgot my order!
Bruce shook his head and looked at Shelby. Shelby gently asked Wild,
Sir, what did you order?
Go and ask your silly staff!
Wild yelled. Bruce pulled Shelby to a corner.
This man has finished the 7th cup. That's too much.
Give me the coffee!
Wild still screamed.
Sir, please calm down. It seems to be a misunderstanding here. Could I invite you into my office?
Shelby politely walked over to the guest.
No, just bring my drink here, right now!
Everything got worse when Wild refused to leave and the customers in line started to get impatient.
Hey, Wild, stop it!
I murmured, but he didn't seem to recognize me at all, which was so weird. At that time, another guy in Starbucks uniform walked out with my order. I was about to get the drink, but Wild was faster. He grabbed the hot cup and shoved it in Bruce's face. Bruce screamed in pain, clutching his face, which was now burned by the heat of the coffee. Oh my God! The espresso I ordered was extremely hot. Everyone was shocked. After doing that horrible thing, Wild stood panting with an empty cup in his hand. The manager immediately called 911 while others helped Bruce with first aid. Wild was still angry and kept glaring at Bruce with hatred.
That stupid rat forgot my order!
Wild returned to his seat after I dissuaded him, but his displeasure was still evident on his face. Bruce's burns were severe. Shelby allowed him to skip the shift to see the doctor. In the end, Shelby had to offer to compensate Wild. Even so, he still grudgingly took the cup and went back to his seat. The coffee cups were brought out to Wild one by one. He drank each cup in a single gulp, but that wasn't enough.
Bring me more! More!
His eyes quickly turned bloodshot, and he growled at Shelby. No one dared to stop him because he was still holding the porcelain cup in his hand.
More! More! More!
He just laughed and yelled. He kept drinking until they brought him the 10th cup. It didn't matter if it was iced or hot coffee. He just chugged the whole cup right away. It seemed he had lost all taste and sensation.
I want more coffee! I want more coffee!
He laughed as he grabbed Shelby, shoving the entire cup of coffee into her mouth. Even though the cup choked her, he still tried to force Shelby to swallow it. She would be suffocated by his damn actions.
Coffee! Coffee!
Wild had gone totally insane.
Wild, stop it!
I was terrified, rushing to stop him, but he just pushed me away. At this moment, the police promptly appeared to intervene.
Coffee!
Even when he got caught, he didn't stop screaming. Wild was taken to the hospital for neurological treatment soon after. The Starbucks store also banned him. Bruce quit his job because of the shock, and I haven't seen him ever since. 1 week later, Wild's condition was improved, and after hearing what happened, Wild didn't recognize himself anymore. As for me, after that incident, I switched to drinking tea instead of coffee, especially chai tea.
Hey Ben, I have a job for you. Do you want to work at Burger King?
I'm unemployed, so okay.
After the wave of layoffs, the people I know who used to have stable jobs have mostly become unemployed, including my neighbor, Ben. He has a weird personality, but the food he makes is pretty good, so I introduced him to work at Burger King with me. And that was the worst decision of my life. Ben is a very gluttonous person, especially eating beef. After each working day, he eats all the leftover beef. The store always prepares many ingredients so that they will not be short for the whole day. But strangely, nearby, the shop did not have many customers, but near the end of the day, the staff always reported that the beef was out of stock. After checking the surveillance camera, I discovered that Ben gobbled beef in the corner of the kitchen. He ate like a hungry animal, not at all like his demeanor. Greasy drool dripped all over his mouth and clothes. I called him into the office, and he was blatantly arrogant, as if he hadn't done anything wrong.
Why did you eat all the beef?
Normally there's a lot of beef, so I just ate a little bit.
When there's leftovers, you can eat. And now the customers haven't eaten yet, but you've already eaten.
Okay, fine.
After I reprimanded Ben, he became more reasonable. The amount of beef in the warehouse is also guaranteed to make food for the customers. But then I discovered that 2 employees of the store suddenly stopped going to work. I tried every way to contact them, but to no avail. They seem to have disappeared from this world. After a week, their family members took the initiative to come to my store with the police to ask about their disappearance. It was then that I was stunned. The police gave me a flood of questions asking about the 2 of them, but I didn't know anything. The camera only showed them leaving the store. Surely the person who caused this must be very careful. I also lost sleep because of this during that time. The kidnapper is in the dark and he is targeting my own shop. The people who work here are in danger.
That's
Ben,
crazy.
be careful when you get home from work.
Okay.
Indeed, from the time the other 2 disappeared, Ben unfortunately did not care. Since then, I have felt that Ben is a somewhat cold-blooded person. Sometimes I thought that maybe he did something to the other 2, but couldn't slander him.
It's him.
To be honest, I think he's the type who only cares about eating, so he probably doesn't have the guts to do such a terrible thing.
He got the guts.
At that time, I could not recruit more employees because the news about 2 missing employees of my store was spread. No one dares to come to work here. Just me, Ben, and another female employee, Clara. Due to the lack of personnel, I had to personally check the warehouse. As a manager, I rarely come here, Stepping into the frozen storage, a blast of cold air rushed through my body. Goosebumps rose. This cold air is not just cold. I can feel a ghostly chill in it.
Why is there so little beef? This batch imported 100 kilograms. And what's this? Unwrapped meat?
In addition to carefully wrapped meat packages, there are also pieces of meat that are not wrapped at all. I went to find Ben because he was in charge of the warehouse, so he would know best.
Ben, why is there frozen beef without wrapping? And why is there so little beef?
I don't know. I must have forgotten to wrap them up after I got them. There are also a lot of visitors these days.
No, it's
I knew he was a terrible employee, but I had no choice. I couldn't fire him, and so I let the story go. After a tiring day at work, I packed up and left. But when I got to the car, I suddenly realized that I forgot my car keys in the office.
Damn it!
I went back to the office, just picked up the keys when I suddenly heard a rattle from the storage room.
Who's still in the store at this hour?
I grumbled and headed straight for the warehouse. But when I faced the barn door, that creepy feeling came back to me. I wonder if I should go there. Many times in a movie, the character often dies out of curiosity, but I don't understand why I still open the door.
Ben? Ben. Oh.
I was so shaken that I couldn't speak. Without being strangled, my throat was already choked. That is my life's greatest fear. At that time, I knew why in horror movies actors couldn't run away when meeting the villain. Ben glared at me like he wanted to kill me, while the rest of the store employees lied motionless on the floor. I have caught Ben eating at work and caught him sleeping and avoiding work, but this time was out of my control. Damn, I shouldn't have opened the door. Ben approached me smugly, a sharp machete in his hand. Without saying a word, he raised the knife to attack me. Fortunately, I was able to dodge his fatal slash.
Dodge it.
You saw it. You must die.
And he died.
You are not that person. Please.
He is. You don't know him.
You don't know anything about me.
What'd I say?
Die.
Oh.
At his madness, I instinctively threw my keys in his face and slammed the door. My heart was beating faster than ever. I wanted to pass out, but I needed help. Because he is still in there and can break the door at any time, I pulled out my phone and shakily dialed 911.
Open the door!
Run up in there. You would have run
Open!
somewhere. You threw your keys at him.
Don't blame me for being evil.
I'm calling the police. Please, shut up!
The knocking on the door faded away, and his menacing sound was gone. Police sirens were heard everywhere. My body lightened when I heard that rescue sound. Fortunately, Ben was caught while he attempted to escape. Police found DNA of the missing employees among the meat found in the refrigerator. He liked to eat beef, but the store only imported a little beef. So when he ran out of beef, he covered it up by killing colleagues to make up for the beef. I have quit my job at Burger King, but looking back on it all, I felt like I was the one to blame. If I hadn't yelled at him about eating beef, maybe things would have been different.
Girl, he would have still been killing. So it was a lot of whole lot of freaking Chuck E. Cheese. Like Chuck E. Cheese at Starbucks, man, was cutting up, going crazy. That man at Subway really pissed me off because you did all that for the damn ketchup. And then the woman at freaking Burger King got that ass toe up. So that was interesting. That was exciting. Well, we did it. This wasn't really, a bunch of scares, but it was still a bunch of spooky shit. So that's all right. And until next time, you guys, y'all already know. Let me know which ones you like, which ones you didn't like. Let me know which one was your favorite. Suggest to me a scarier hour long, and I may watch it. You know? So just chat with me. And until next time, you guys, I love y'all. Bye.